One of the most dangerous misconceptions that many victims of narcissistic abuse hold is the belief that the effects of the trauma will simply fade over time. It's easy to think that once you've escaped the toxic environment, everything will miraculously return to normal. Unfortunately, the reality is far more complex. The aftermath of narcissistic abuse lingers, and its impact runs deeper than you might expect. Even after leaving the abusive situation, many victims find themselves grappling with strange and often bewildering behaviors. These are not random actions, but rather subconscious coping mechanisms that have developed in response to the emotional and psychological chaos they've endured. The abuse doesn't just leave bruises on the body, it often leaves invisible scars on the mind and soul, scars that can cause you to behave in ways that might confuse not only others, but also yourself. These odd behaviors are often a defense mechanism, a way for the mind to protect itself from the deep wounds inflicted by narcissistic manipulation and control. It's common for victims to experience emotional numbness, intense self-doubt, or a constant state of hypervigilance. Some may even find themselves doubting their own reality, caught in a cycle of second-guessing and questioning what's true. This is the toll narcissistic abuse takes. It warps your perception of yourself, of others, and of the world around you. In this piece, we'll dive into some of these behaviors, uncovering why they emerge and how they serve as a way for victims to cope with the overwhelming aftermath. But most importantly, we'll explore how you can begin to heal from them. Understanding these behaviors is the first step toward reclaiming your peace and finding your true self again. The journey to recovery isn't easy, but with awareness and the right tools, it is absolutely possible. Are you ready for number 1? The subtle art of talking in circles. If you've ever found yourself caught in the web of narcissistic abuse, you might recognize the unsettling habit of talking in circles. This behavior often emerges as a defense mechanism, an unconscious way to sidestep direct answers, almost as if you're tiptoeing through a minefield. It feels like you're walking on eggshells, carefully choosing every word, all because you've learned the hard way that anything you say could be twisted and used against you. It's a survival tactic ingrained over time, a protective shield designed to avoid the emotional fallout that comes from confronting a narcissist. Dr. Raman Vasila, a respected clinical psychologist, sheds light on this dynamic. According to him, narcissists are experts in cultivating a persistent sense of uncertainty. They thrive on destabilizing their victims, leaving them constantly second-guessing themselves. This sense of unpredictability creates an environment where you feel as though you must always tread cautiously. Every word, every opinion, and even every glance could provoke an explosion of rage or manipulation. As a result, you may find yourself dodging questions or talking around sensitive topics simply to avoid potential conflict. However, this constant avoidance takes its toll. It erodes your confidence and reinforces the unhealthy patterns of communication you've developed to protect yourself. The truth is, the more you practice evading direct answers, the more disconnected you become from your own voice, your own truth. It's a cycle that can make you feel small, powerless, and unheard. But there's hope. Healing begins when you recognize this behavior and actively work to break free from it. Start by creating safe spaces, people, and environments where you can practice speaking openly and directly. Begin to reclaim your voice, reminding yourself that your thoughts, your opinions, and your feelings are not only valid but deserve to be heard. It's about learning to trust yourself again and communicating with clarity, without fear of retribution. As you build confidence in your ability to speak up, you'll find that the need to walk on eggshells begins to fade. In time, you'll regain your strength, one word at a time. Let's delve into a behavior that often emerges after narcissistic abuse: the struggle with food, whether through binge eating or restriction. For many survivors, food transforms into a double-edged sword, both a source of comfort and a source of conflict. In the aftermath of narcissistic abuse, you may find yourself eating compulsively to fill an emotional void, or conversely, restricting your intake in an attempt to regain control over a life that feels utterly chaotic. As psychologist Dr. Romain Devasa highlights, the emotional turmoil caused by narcissistic manipulation often leaves you feeling completely out of control. In this state of emotional upheaval, food becomes a coping mechanism, whether to soothe the pain or to punish yourself, hoping that in doing so you might somehow restore a sense of balance and order. This pattern is not about the food itself, it's about the desperate attempt to reclaim anything that can offer a sense of stability in an unpredictable world. You might turn to food because it's one of the few areas in life where you feel you can exert control. But the truth is, this emotional reliance on food can distort your relationship with it, making it an unreliable source of comfort. To break free from this cycle, it's essential to start rebuilding your relationship with food. Begin by nourishing your body with wholesome choices and becoming attuned to your emotional triggers. Learn to recognize when you're eating to fill an emotional void and gradually shift toward choices that support not just your body, but your mental well-being as well. Healing takes time, but with conscious effort, you can reclaim a healthier, more balanced relationship with both food and yourself. Let's now turn our attention to the third point: adopting new personas. One of the more unsettling behaviors that often emerges after experiencing narcissistic abuse is the tendency to change who you are in order to fit in with various groups. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It's the result of years of subtle manipulation where, in an effort to please the narcissist, you gradually lose touch with your authentic self. During the abusive cycle, you were likely conditioned to adjust, to morph into whatever the narcissist needed or demanded, often at the expense of your own desires, preferences, and beliefs. Dr. Gabor M.A., a renowned trauma expert, encapsulates this experience powerfully when he states, "When you live in a state of constant emotional survival, you forget who you really are." This loss of self is not merely a result of external pressure, but a survival mechanism, an instinct to navigate an emotionally volatile environment where your worth was constantly in question. The real you becomes buried under layers of adaptive behavior, each one designed to avoid conflict or earn approval. After the abuse ends, this confusion can continue to linger. You might find yourself shifting your personality to suit the people around you, still trapped in the cycle of seeking validation and avoiding potential confrontation. This becomes a coping strategy, though an unhealthy one, as you continue to adjust to fit in. The problem is, you're still not living as your true self, and the disconnect between who you are and who you pretend to be only deepens the internal conflict. Recognizing this pattern is the first step towards healing. It's essential to become aware of when you are slipping into these adaptive roles. Ask yourself, what do I truly want? What do I genuinely value? Take the time to explore your own interests, desires, and passions, those things that have been long neglected in the chaos of survival. Surround yourself with people who celebrate your uniqueness, who encourage you to be authentic without fear of judgment. These are the relationships that will nourish your soul and help you reconnect with the person you were always meant to be. By focusing on self-discovery and embracing authenticity, you can slowly shed the masks you've worn for so long. The journey may be challenging, but each step brings you closer to reclaiming your identity and living life on your own terms. It's not about fitting into others' expectations, but rather about finding the courage to show up as the person you truly are. Let's explore the fourth sign: compulsive self-monitoring. After experiencing narcissistic abuse, you may find yourself slipping into the role of your own personal surveillance system, constantly evaluating every word you speak, every gesture you make, and even every slight shift in your facial expression. It's as if you're on high alert, worried that someone is watching you, ready to catch you in a misstep. This hyper-awareness often stems from the psychological toll of narcissistic abuse, where you've been trained to second-guess yourself at every turn. As Dr. Robin Stern, a psychologist and author of The Gaslight Effect, aptly puts it, the aftermath of narcissistic abuse can leave you in a constant state of self-doubt, questioning not only your actions but even your intentions. What's troubling is that these habits don't necessarily disappear once the abusive relationship ends. Instead, you may find yourself perpetuating this cycle of overvigilance long after the abuse has ceased. The fear of making a mistake, of being criticized, or of appearing wrong becomes ingrained in your mind. It's as if you're walking on eggshells, always anxious that something will slip through the cracks. This intense self-monitoring can make it feel almost impossible to relax, as if every action must be carefully calculated to avoid judgment. But here's the truth: this pattern, though deeply ingrained, is not your natural state. The path to healing lies in self-acceptance and embracing mindfulness. Begin by focusing on the present moment. Instead of being consumed by worries of how you are perceived or fearing the judgment of others, allow yourself to exist freely and authentically. It's a gradual process, but the more you practice self-compassion, the easier it will become to express your true thoughts and emotions without the constant fear of being wrong. Slowly but surely, you will start to reclaim the parts of yourself that were lost to the fear of judgment, and you will begin to feel more at peace with who you are. One key sign of narcissistic abuse that many survivors overlook is the tendency to over-explain oneself. If you found yourself constantly justifying your actions and emotions, often in excessive detail, you might be unknowingly caught in the trap of over-explanation. This behavior often emerges as a result of the ongoing need to defend yourself in the face of a narcissist's constant invalidation. Over time, this cycle chips away at your sense of self, leaving you feeling that your thoughts, actions, and emotions need constant validation. As Dr. Jennifer Freed, a therapist specializing in trauma, explains, when you've been invalidated, your voice can feel small. This feeling of invisibility drives you to overcompensate by providing more and more information, hoping that by doing so, you will prove the legitimacy of your feelings and experiences to others or even to yourself. You may find yourself speaking in circles, exhausting yourself with the effort of convincing those around you, only to end up feeling frustrated and unheard. The habit of over-explaining can weigh heavily on your mental and emotional health. Instead of engaging in endless self-justification, it's crucial to recognize that your thoughts and feelings are already valid, regardless of whether others accept them. The truth is, you don't owe anyone an explanation for who you are or how you feel. To begin reclaiming your voice, take small, deliberate steps to communicate more concisely. Set a goal each day to express your thoughts with brevity and confidence, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. Remind yourself that you are not obligated to over-explain to anyone. Your experiences are real, and you are worthy of being heard without the need for justification. In this journey, remember that your voice is powerful not because you explain it endlessly, but because it is yours. Are you still struggling with number 6? Compulsive Googling. After enduring narcissistic abuse, you may find yourself slipping into the habit of compulsively Googling, desperately searching for answers or reassurance from the vast, often unreliable, world of the internet. This behavior can feel like an attempt to fill a void left by the abusive dynamics you've experienced, where your concerns were dismissed, your emotions belittled, or your reality questioned. As Dr. Alexander Solomon, a psychologist, insightfully notes, when you've been told your feelings don't matter, you might turn to the internet to find someone who agrees with you. It's as though you're trying to seek validation from a place that, unfortunately, can sometimes only magnify your doubts. What begins as a simple search for clarity can quickly spiral into endless hours of research, revisiting the same topics over and over again, questioning every tiny detail of your past interactions. It's an exhausting cycle, one where you are constantly seeking proof that your experiences were real, that your feelings were valid, that you weren't imagining things. But this cycle of Googling for reassurance often only deepens your uncertainty. The more you search, the more you question yourself. It's as if the more information you gather, the more disconnected you feel from the answers you truly need. In truth, External validation rarely provides the lasting comfort you're seeking. Dr. Solomon points out that, after such abuse, external sources of confirmation can often reinforce your insecurities, leaving you with even more self-doubt rather than the peace you hoped for. The internet, though brimming with advice and personal stories, can also feed into confusion, leaving you spinning in circles without a solid sense of direction. So, how can you break free from this compulsive search for reassurance? Start by setting clear boundaries for yourself. Establish specific time limits for your research sessions and gently remind yourself that, while the internet can provide insight, it isn't a substitute for your own intuition or personal healing. Trust that the answers you need may not come from a Google search, but from within. Acknowledge that true reassurance comes from reclaiming your sense of self, not from seeking endless validation outside yourself. The journey to healing requires not only knowledge, but also the courage to trust your own experiences and emotions. Let's move on to point number 7, impulsive spending. After enduring the chaos and emotional devastation of narcissistic abuse, it's not uncommon to find yourself turning to shopping as a quick fix. You might notice that you've become a shopping ninja, swiping your credit card almost unconsciously, using it as a shield to ward off the pain of your past experiences. It's as though every trip to the store offers a fleeting moment of relief, where a new pair of shoes, a shiny gadget, or an item you didn't even know you needed can seem like the key to your happiness, at least for a little while. Psychotherapist Dr. John Amodo explains this behavior succinctly, saying people often shop to fill an emotional void, believing that acquiring new things will provide them with a sense of comfort. However, as many soon learn, that brief sense of satisfaction is nothing more than a temporary high. It doesn't take long for the joy of new purchases to fade, and what remains is often the bitter aftermath of financial hangover. You may find yourself with piles of things you never needed, now sitting in your closet or gathering dust, while your bank balance shrinks. It's important to recognize this cycle and take proactive steps to break free from it. One powerful way to counteract impulsive spending is by creating a budget that aligns with your true financial goals and values. This can serve as a roadmap to help you make more intentional decisions about your money. Additionally, practicing mindful shopping is crucial. Try implementing a 24-hour rule where you wait a full day before making any purchase. This simple pause can help you distinguish between genuine needs and emotional impulses, allowing you to make choices that reflect long-term satisfaction rather than short-term relief. While it may not always be easy, taking these steps can help you regain control over your finances and ultimately your emotional well-being. Number 8 on the list, the extreme pendulum of self-care. After enduring the emotional and psychological toll of narcissistic abuse, many individuals find themselves swinging between two extremes when it comes to self-care. At one moment, they lavish themselves with luxurious treatments, spa days, bubble baths, and indulgent moments of relaxation, seeking comfort in ways that feel like an act of self-restoration. Yet, in the next breath, they might abandon their basic needs entirely, skipping meals, neglecting sleep, or failing to engage in the very practices that would help them rebuild their strength. This pendulum swing is often a reaction to the chaos and manipulation they've endured. It's an attempt to regain a sense of control over their own lives. Unfortunately, these drastic shifts in behavior rarely lead to lasting peace. Instead, they can perpetuate feelings of confusion, guilt, and overwhelm, further deepening the emotional strain. Dr. Romaine Diaz captures this paradox well when she explains, when you've been through narcissistic abuse, it's like navigating a maze of self-doubt, and self-care can feel like an all-or-nothing endeavor. It's understandable why, after being subjected to such emotional manipulation, the idea of self-care might seem like an unattainable goal. But the key to truly healing is balance. Self-care isn't an indulgence or a deprivation, it's a blend of both. The path forward involves creating a steady, sustainable routine that doesn't veer to either extreme. Small, consistent acts of self-care, whether it's taking a moment each day to rest, nourishing your body with food, or engaging in practices that bring you joy will help restore your well-being without contributing to the confusion of swinging from one end to the other. By prioritizing your physical and emotional needs in harmony, you'll begin to reclaim your sense of self without falling into the traps of overindulgence or neglect. Healing takes time, but with a more balanced approach to self-care, you can rebuild the foundation of your life, one mindful step at a time. Let's start with the first behavior, the repeated touching of your face, especially around the mouth and chin. You may have noticed this habit after enduring narcissistic abuse, a tendency to touch your face more frequently, particularly in these areas. This can be a subtle physical manifestation of the anxiety and discomfort that have settled deep within you after the emotional strain. Psychologist Dr. Tara Well explains that self-soothing gestures, such as face touching, often serve as a non-verbal request for comfort or reassurance. It's your mind's instinctual way of seeking relief from the emotional tension you've been carrying, even when you aren't fully aware of it. Recognizing this tendency is crucial. By practicing mindfulness, you can bring awareness to this behavior and consciously replace it with healthier coping strategies, such as using a stress ball or taking deep breaths to calm your mind. With time, you can break the cycle and offer yourself the comfort you need in more positive ways. Now, let's turn to the second behavior, rocking slightly back and forth when standing. If you've found yourself doing this, especially when someone shows you care or concern, you're not alone. This physical movement is often a response to feeling on edge or defensive, a reaction that's all too familiar for those who've experienced narcissistic abuse. After enduring such manipulation and emotional turmoil, kindness can feel suspicious, as if it's a hidden trap waiting to spring. Dr. Stephen Stye, a psychologist, aptly describes this feeling. When you've been treated poorly, even small gestures can feel like landmines. In other words, when you've been hurt by someone's actions, even the most genuine acts of kindness can be perceived as a threat or manipulation. This defensive reaction comes from the trauma of past experiences where trust was repeatedly broken. However, the first step toward healing is recognizing this pattern. It means you're beginning to understand how your past has shaped your emotional responses. It's important to remember that you don't need to rush the process of letting your guard down. You deserve the time and space to feel safe again. Trust can take time to rebuild, but with patience you will learn to receive care without the fear of being hurt. To wrap things up, the behaviors we've discussed are not merely strange or inexplicable quirks. They are survival mechanisms, ways that your mind and body have adapted to cope with the trauma of narcissistic abuse. Understanding this is key. These behaviors do not define who you are as a person. They are simply responses to deep emotional pain. If you find yourself navigating these reactions, or if someone you care about is going through something similar, know that healing is a journey, not a race. It's okay to seek help when needed, and it's okay to take small steps toward healing. Recognizing the roots of these behaviors and embracing your feelings is a powerful step in reclaiming your life. Remember, healing doesn't happen overnight, but with each day you move closer to a place of peace. Be kind to yourself as you move forward, and trust that brighter days, filled with genuine love and connection, are ahead.